The 1993 American Western film Tombstone is loosely based on real events that took place in the 1880s in southeast Arizona. It depicts several Western outlaws and lawmen, such as Wyatt Earp, William Brocious, Johnny Ringo, and Doc Holliday. But as entertaining as this movie is, how close to the real events is it? The movie Tombstone opens with members of an outlaw gang called the Cowboys, led by Curly Bill, riding into a Mexican town to interrupt a local police officer's wedding. They then massacre the assembled policemen in retribution for killing two of their fellow gang members. The Gang of Cowboys is loosely based upon a group of outlaws living in Pima and Cochise County, Arizona, in the late 19th century, known today as the Cochise County Cowboys. The term cowboy, as opposed to cowhand, had only begun to come into wider usage during the 1870s. This gang was led by Curly Bill, who was a real historical person. His name is likely an alias or nickname, and some evidence links him to another outlaw named William Curly Bill Bresnahan, who was convicted of an 1878 attempted robbery and murder in El Paso, Texas. The movie has Wyatt Earp as a retired peace officer with a notable reputation, who reunites with his brothers Virgil and Morgan in Tombstone to settle down. There they encounter Wyatt's longtime friend Doc Holliday, who is seeking relief in the dry climate from his worsening tuberculosis. Josephine Marcus and Mr. Fabian are also newly arrived with a travelling theatre troupe. Meanwhile, Wyatt's common-law wife, Mattie Baylock, is becoming dependent on laudanum. Wyatt and his brothers begin to profit from a stake in a gambling emporium and saloon, when they have their first encounter with the Cowboys. In truth, the Wyatt brothers had come to Tombstone to seek their fortune, but they were not shy of upholding the law. In fact, Virgil Earp had been appointed Deputy U.S. Marshal for Eastern Pima County in Prescott, and was directed to relocate to Tombstone to concentrate on suppressing the Cowboys' illegal activities. Wyatt looked for business opportunities, but when these didn't work out, he started riding shotgun for Wells Fargo & Co., guarding their silver bullion shipments. He was appointed as Pima County Deputy Sheriff from June 1880 until November that year, and Virgil Earp was hired as Tombstone's City Marshal in June of 1881. As tensions rise between the two factions in the movie, Wyatt is pressured to help rid the town of the Cowboys, even though he is no longer a lawman. Curly Bill begins shooting at the sky after a visit to an opium den, and is told by Marshal Fred White to relinquish his firearms. Curly Bill accidentally shoots the Marshal dead, and is forcibly taken into custody by Wyatt. The arrest infuriates Ike Clapton and other cowboys. Curly Bill stands trial but is found not guilty due to a lack of witnesses. This incident is somewhat true, as a party of law enforcement officers did come into conflict with the Cowboys, which included Fred White, who was killed by Curly Bill Brocious, and was later ruled as an accidental shooting. Like in the movie, Wyatt Earp had protected Brocious against a mob ready to lynch him for the killing of the town's Marshal Fred White, but in real life, he then provided testimony that helped spare him from a murder conviction. In the movie, Virgil is unable to tolerate lawlessness and becomes the new marshal and imposes a weapons ban within the city limits. This leads to a gunfight at the OK Corral. As mentioned before, Virgil was already a lawman before he came to Tombstone. After Town Marshal Fred White was killed on October the 30th, 1880, Virgil was appointed to replace him, gaining the position permanently on the 2nd of June 1881. He hired his brother Morgan as a deputy town marshal, and occasionally called on Wyatt for assistance. Wyatt is centred as an experienced man in charge of the gunfight at the OK Corral, but it was his brother Virgil who had far more experience as a sheriff, constable, marshal and soldier in combat. Billy Caliborn, brothers Ike and Billy Clacton, and brothers Tom and Frank McClory were on the cowboy side. On the other side were Deputy US Marshal and Town Marshal Virgil Earp, his two brothers and Special Policemen Morgan and Wyatt Earp, and Temporary Policeman Doc Holliday. In the following shootout, Billy Clangton and both McClory brothers were killed. Ike Clangton and Billy Caliborn fled from the fight. Virgil, Morgan and Holliday were wounded, but Wyatt was unharmed. The killing of Billy Clangton and the McClorys was not popular in Tombstone. They were landowners and commanded a great deal of respect within the town. The men were so popular that the cowboys' funeral was the largest ever witnessed in Tombstone. The cowboys would seek revenge, both in the movie and in real life. The movie shows that Virgil and Morgan were attacked on the same night, which is different from the real history. It was on the 28th of December 1881 at approximately 11:30 p.m. that Virgil Earp was ambushed on the streets of Tombstone by a hidden assailant shooting from the second story of an unfinished building as he walked from the Oriental Saloon to his room. Virgil was hit in the back and left arm by 3 loads of buckshot from about 60 feet. Critically wounded, Virgil staggered into the hotel. One shot struck him above the groin, coming out near the spine. The humerus bone in his upper arm was longitudinally fractured, leaving his left arm lame. Morgan was shot 3 months after his brother Virgil. On Saturday, March the 18th, 1882, while playing a late round of billiards at the Campbell and Hatch Billiard Parlour against owner Bob Hatch, Wyatt had received threats that same day, but refused to allow himself to hide away in fear and calmly watched his brother. At 10:50 p.m, an assailant shot Morgan through the upper half of a 4-paned window door that opened onto a dark alley. Morgan was struck in the right side and the bullet shattered his spine and passed through his left side. Another bullet lodged in the wall near the ceiling over Wyatt's head. Several men rushed into the alley but found the shooter had fled. After Morgan was shot, his brother tried to help him stand, but Morgan said, "Don't, I can't stand it. This is the last game of pool I'll ever play." Morgan died less than an hour after he was shot. The main suspects in the ambush of Virgil Earp were Ike and Finn Clangton and Pony Darlow. Wyatt was appointed as Deputy US Marshal to replace Virgil, and he formed his own posse to take on the cowboys. This posse included Wyatt's younger brother Warren Earp, Doc Holliday, and several former cowboys. On the 23rd of January 1882, Wyatt Earp obtained arrest warrants for Ike and Finn Clangton and Pony Delany, and led his posse after them in what is known as Earp's Vendetta Ride. The Earp posse unexpectedly encountered Curly Bill and other cowboys on the 24th of March 1882 at Iron Springs. Wyatt killed Curly Bill during the shootout with a buckshot to the stomach, which nearly cut him in half. Johnny Ringo then became the leader of the cowboys, and the movie has him offering a gunfight with Wyatt, who is told by Doc that he couldn't win. Doc thus takes Wyatt's place and kills Ringo. In truth, this entertaining scene is just a theory, one of many which tries to explain the death of Johnny Ringo. In reality, Ringo's body was found on the 14th of July 1882 with a bullet hole in his temple, which was ruled a suicide. In reality, 6 days before Ringo's death, Holliday was in Salida, Colorado, about 670 miles from Turkey Creek, Arizona, and then in Leadville, about 700 miles distance, on the 18th of July. There was also an arrest warrant outstanding on holiday in Arizona for his part in Frank Sidwell's murder, making it unlikely that he would have entered Arizona at the time. The movie ends with Holiday in hospital in Colorado, where he dies of his illness. At Doc's urging, Wyatt pursues Josephine to begin a new life. This is somewhat true, as Holiday died of tuberculosis in his bed at the Hotel Glenwood at the age of 36. After leaving Tombstone, Wyatt Earp went to San Francisco, where he reunited with Josephine Marcus, and they lived as husband and wife. Tombstone is an entertaining movie and is a must-watch. It stays remarkably close to the historical events it portrays, with only minor differences. A rare thing when it comes to Hollywood movies.